Going on, everybody? It's your boy Aaron B. So we got the NFL draft coming in a couple of weeks. So I had to get my guy Stuart Brookins, who's a big Colts fan and covers the NFL draft as well. What's going on, Stu?
What's up, my guy?
How's it
Good to be
going?
back.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a while since last time we played y'all. Before we start the show, appreciate the deal we got. Stephon Gilmore. I'm actually pretty happy about that one.
Listen, you got Stephon Gilmore, who I felt like played the best football he's played in a long time last year for a fifth round pick. For me, it was a steal. I mean, what are we doing? Right? What are we doing?
Yeah, I was shocked by it too. I was like, I thought we at least had to give y'all a third or something.
Yeah,
Um,
right? And then I see it we traded him for a fifth, and I was like, he was outside of DeForest Buckner last year, the best defensive player on the field.
yeah, and I kept hearing dumb comments, people saying, "Oh, he's washed." I'm like, y'all didn't watch any of him
Did
play at
y'all
all
watch
last.
how many game saving interceptions and breakups he had last year?
Yeah, like watch the film because
And
he's definitely
all four of our wins or whatever, it was all because of him. You know, just our four wins.
dang. I and then when we played y'all, he's the one that picked off Dak. I was like, he's definitely not washed.
Yeah, he got that game sealing pick against Russell Wilson and the Broncos.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah,
But everybody got interceptions off of Russell Wilson last year, so
yeah, he wasn't cooking anything but hot.
they let Russ cook and he burnt the food.
Yeah, like he burnt some hot pockets. Was to say that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, sir. So my first thing I wanted to ask you, y'all got a new head coach now, Shane Steichen, who we were just talking about. You said looks like Dak Shepard, and when you said, I was like, yeah, he looked just like him. To be honest with you,
Yeah, that's what I said. I made a joke about it when he first got hired. I was like, did we just hire Dak Shepard stunt double? But no, listen, I love him. He was once I got a list of candidates as to who the Colts were interviewing to be their head coach, he was my number one guy. When the season was coming to an end, like week 16, week 17, if you would have asked me who I wanted to be my head coach, it would have been my top three guys were I really wanted Ken Dorsey, the quarterback or the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. I wanted Shane Steichen and I wanted Brian Callahan. And we got one of those guys who happened to be our league guy after the interview started. So, yeah, I'm stoked. I love Shane. I hope we can figure it out with Shane because I mean, offensively, we've been horrible. We were horrible last year, and we've missed on the quarterbacks. That's something we need to figure out. So I hope we can. I hope we can figure it out. I have hope for Shane. He's a first time head coach, so we'll see how it goes.
yeah, I do like the signing. Definitely know a little bit about Shane Steichen since he was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. So yeah, I feel like your offense is definitely going to upgrade from last year. Was
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, Frank Reich was an offensive guru for a little bit too, and then we averaged 16 points per game last year. So
Yeah, that kind of confused me with that. I was like, you're supposed to be the quote unquote guru of offenses. I'm like, yeah, I couldn't figure nothing out on that part.
there's a lot that went into it, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I hope this works out, and I want it to work out. He's a smart guy for Chris
Yeah,
Ballard's sake, and I love Chris Ballard. I know a lot of Colts fans are over Chris Ballard already, but for Chris Ballard's sake, I hope this works out.
yeah, absolutely. Before we get into like the free agency, one of my biggest questions: what do you think y'all gonna do with Bernard Raymond, the one y'all got at Central Michigan? Y'all think y'all gonna put him into the interior line, or y'all gonna keep him at left tackle?
I think they're going to try to do him at left tackle. If you watch at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, it was rough, but he improved towards the end of the year. Really started to play pretty good football at the left tackle position. I mean,
Okay.
you gotta remember he played at Central Michigan. First of all, second of all, he was like a second or third round pick. So to expect him to come in and be, you know, torching earth his first year is not realistic. So, he's a second, third round pick. You got to give him a chance to succeed. You got to give him a chance to fail. He failed a little bit. Overall, the offensive line failed last year. So, I mean, you want to talk about, like, I think that's the least of our concerns. I think the main concerns are we dumped a lot of money into my boy Quentin Nelson over here. I can't, looking at the camera, I couldn't really tell you which way Quentin Nelson was, but we failed at protecting our quarterback last year, and we gave a bunch of money to Quentin Nelson, who looked like a first ballot Hall of Famer up until this year. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. We need to get the offensive line fixed. They need to change the mentality, first of all, because listen, it disgusted me to see Kayvon Thibodeau doing snow angels on the ground while Nick Foles is on the ground writhing in pain, and the offensive line didn't do anything about it. Like, for me, that was a testament to this offensive line's lost things. So, back to your point with Bernard Ryman, I think so. I think he'll stay at left tackle. Hopefully he'll grow into that position, but that could change too. I mean, we'll talk about a draft scenario coming up in the pod, but there could be a scenario where maybe the Colts don't like any of these quarterbacks and they draft a left tackle. So who knows?
That's true. Yeah, because when it comes to this little mock draft we're going to do in a little bit, sometimes it seems like it's going to be realistic, and then sometimes you see I can't think of a player right now be first round. You're like, that's not going to happen, but one of the things I want to get into is y'all all season, like all the signings y'all did. We got the list on the right side. I just wanted to get your perspective. Which one is your favorite, and which one do you think is like an underrated signing y'all have?
I mean, underrated, I guess, would be Gardner Minshew, only because, like, his first year with Jacksonville, he had a pretty good year, and I thought they were going to build off of that. Then, things happened. They didn't really play well. His play kind of deteriorated. He became a backup quarterback, but he'll probably, depending on who the Colts draft, looking like, sitting at 4 if they do take a quarterback at some of the guys they're going to have to choose from. Some of those guys are going to have to sit for a year or two. And so Gardner, having played in this offense under Shane Steichen in Philadelphia, understanding and knowing how this offense works, I think it's the perfect scenario for if you need a plug-and-play guy, a bridge quarterback, so to speak, this is your guy. I'm a big Isaiah McKenzie fan. I love Isaiah McKenzie. I'm not sure how well this signing works, though. I mean, I think he's limited and those types of things. He is like a third, fourth receiver on the team, so we'll see. But I do like Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah, that's actually a good signing because I was looking at him before we got Brandon Cooks. I was like, oh, I didn't even know he was afraid. And I looking back to his film. He's a solid slot receiver that you could put into any type of situation. I think he'll be a good fit for y'all if the offense is like creative using him, or it'd just be good to see what they do with him on there.
I agree. The one I hate is we backed the Brinks truck up for a kicker. Like, why do we pay a kicker so much money to come kick for us? Like, I understand it's Matt Gay, but my God, a lot of money for a kicker.
I forgot his contract when I seen it. I was trying to look.
I didn't see who he signed. I saw the numbers and said, "Heck, who we get?" And I look and I see it's Matt Gay, and I'm like, dude.
So he's got to be the highest paid kicker right now because I can't think of anybody else.
Yeah. Kicker's the least of our worries, but we'll pay the kicker whatever he wants. But it's the least of our worries.
So there's still free agency left. Is there any guys on your mind that you would like to see on the Colts or as a possibility?
I mean, I'm sure there's guys out there that if they got signed, I'd be like, that's a pretty good signing. But I mean, all the guys like I think the Colts could have found other teams and went other places, and they went other places pretty quickly. Like, I would have, like, if you were going, I said this. I said depending on what the Colts do in free agency will tell you how they feel about this quarterback draft class. It really, really does. If I'm just not so sure that signing Gardner Minshew really tells you how they feel. They may not know how they feel, but I felt like, if they went and signed a Jimmy Garoppolo, or they went and signed a Jacoby Brissett, or they went and signed, somebody like that who's played at a high level for a little bit before, they would say that tells you that they're probably going to draft one of these developmental guys, whether it's Will Levis, whether it's Hendon Hooker, whether it's Anthony Richardson, and they're going to roll that out there and hope it works. But they went and got Gardner Minshew, and I guess you could say the same about Gardner. I mean, I guess you can say Gardner would be the guy, and you can still sign a developmental guy. But Gardner's one of these guys, and this is what I said last year with Marcus Mariota when he was going up against Desmond Ridder. Gardner's going to be one of these guys, and he's got a good arm. Sorry if you hear anything rattling in the background, it's my dog. But
Oh no, you're good.
But I said this last year with Marcus Mariota, and I kind of feel the same. Like if we draft a Will Levis or an Anthony Richardson, which is what it's looking like our choices at quarterback are going to be if they take quarterback, people are going to go into training camp. Fans, media members, teams are going to go into training camp, and they're going to look at Will Levis throw a football or Anthony Richardson throw a football, and they're going to look at Gardner Minshew throw a football. And Gardner has a good arm, don't get me wrong, but they're going to be like, that looks different. That ball looks different coming out of the hands of Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. And then all of a sudden this chatter starts to get a little louder. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But what's up? I think we lost you for a minute.
I don't know what happened right there, but it's all good. I'll just edit that, so it's all good.
All right.
So we were in a good conversation, then it just wanted to do that. It's all good. So let me get we'll start on the mock draft, so we'll get that going real quick. Guess I already had it all set up. I was like, oh. Let me see, I get this, but you were still talking about about Gardner Minshew and whoever they ever drafted at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what they do. It'll either be, I mean, at this point, it's probably going to be AR-15 or Will Levis.
Between those two, who would you rather have? I kind of have an idea.
Neither one, really. But if I had to choose, I've kind of changed my tone on it, I guess. Like, I'm known as a guy who's been very outspoken against drafting Anthony Richardson because I wrote a whole article about it. I think you read the article. Like, everything about Anthony Richardson, history is not on his side to succeed in the NFL. It just isn't. And we can talk about all these types of outliers and all this stuff, and people are going to make points about, Bryce Young's an out. 100% correct. Bryce Young's an outlier too. We've never had anybody Bryce Young size come in and be successful in the league. But I didn't write an article about Bryce Young. I wrote an article about Anthony Richardson because Anthony Richardson fits into this classic big-bodied, big-arm quarterback. He must be the next great thing because he can throw the ball over a mountain like he's Uncle Rico. And it's like, man, I don't know, dude, because we've seen big arm quarterbacks like Jamarcus Russell before. We've seen big arm quarterbacks like Drew Lock before. We've seen big arm quarterbacks like Jake Locker, JP Lostman. The list goes on and on that have come in and just not been successful, but there's so much to like there. And even if it crashes miserably, it's going to be a fun crash and burn, I think, just because he'll provide some exciting plays as opposed to, I think Will Levis will just frustrate the hell out of me, or heck out of me, shall I say, and I'll just, I'll struggle every Sunday night. I'll be yelling, or every Sunday I'll be yelling at the TV, ready to rip it off the stand.
Yeah, when I seen Will Levis, it's like he just forces throws, and it's just like,
which I like. There's a lot there to like, but I hear guys like Mel Kiper talking about, Well, he had to do this because he made some. He's played bad ball and he has turnovers because he had to play hero ball, and it's like to an extent that's correct. Like the team around
Yeah,
him was bad, but I showed a clip earlier on Twitter, and he rolls out versus Tennessee,
I
rolls
seen
out to the
that.
right side. He has a shallow crosser and a deep crosser. The deep crosser like covered pretty heavily. The shallow, he dumps that off to the shallow guy, he cuts it upfield, gets the first down, and keep the chains moving. Instead, Anthony Richardson says, "No, I'm going to throw it to the guy back there." Throws it behind the deep crosser route, and it almost gets picked off. So it's one of those things where it's like you watch him throw the ball 60 plus yards in the air, and you're like, "Oh my god!" Like, "Oh my god!" And then you watch him throw a pass, and you go, "Dude, what were you doing? Like, what were you reading?" And it's the same with Anthony Richardson. Don't get me wrong, Richardson's the same way, but I think there's just more to tap into with Anthony Richardson than there is Will Levis. I don't know either one of the. I think I said this before. I can be talked into Will Levis more than I can Anthony Richardson. But if the Colts take Anthony Richardson, then I'm not going to be like, I hope he fails. I mean, I'm a Colts fan, so obviously I hope he succeeds and I hope it works out. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. But overall, if I had to choose, I think I would probably choose Anthony Richardson.
I understand. I hope they don't just like force them in there. I hope like they kind of like they let Minshew play for a couple weeks and then
Weeks.
put,
I hope
put
they let him play for the whole year.
yeah, but in this league,
That's not
some
realistic.
leagues,
Yeah.
yeah. But we get this. Let me get this draft going. I guess I had too many tabs on or whatever happened, but we're good now. Let me see. We'll start this draft. We're gonna do 3 rounds. You
All
want to
right.
do 4?
We can do 3, 4. It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do 3. Let me see. We'll see this draft madness if it. Okay. In my computer that moving slow like molasses on mine. Will Levis goes first.
Well, that's not realistic.
Will Anderson. Okay, so let's see who's
So
available right.
I'm not even gonna waste my breath. If this is a situation, they are sprinting the card for CJ Stroud up to the podium. That's what they're doing. They're sprinting it up there.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple. The pick CJ Stroud. This isn't going
Yeah.
to happen. This is not going to happen. But if this happens, it's CJ Stroud.
I was about to say I hope that's y'all's pick right there. So
Me too. I've been wanting CJ Stroud since I realized we sucked. But
all right, so we're gonna get through.
no way Will Levis goes number 1 overall.
Nah.
No chance. I see Richardson at 7. I thought maybe that would happen, but once they sign Jimmy G, I don't see that happening.
I didn't see where Will Levis goes all the way down to 19. I think it was on Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft to the Bucks.
Yeah, he really goes anywhere from 4 to 19. If he goes number 1 overall, dude.
Man, that's gonna be an uproar there. So who we got available in second round? So any names catching your eye, or did you know?
I'm tempted to go since he's here. I'm very tempted to go Cam Smith from South Carolina.
Yeah, he's a good corner. Definitely could put him in the nickel and everything. So you want to
Wow.
go Cam Smith?
Yeah.
Okay.
Osiris. Wait. Did you already select it?
No, I didn't select him.
Let's do Osiris Torrance from
Osiris,
Florida.
okay. So if
I love Osiris.
Yeah, I like his film. He's a strong dude.
Yeah, he is.
So So we're in the third round. What type of grade PFF is gonna give us?
They better give us an A. I mean, we drafted the best quarterback in the draft class. Like, insane that they had Will Levis going number 1 overall.
Yeah, I don't.
That's not going to happen.
Nah.
Of course, I say that,
If
and then it will
yeah,
happen. I'll look like a fool.
there's some teams that can't draft, but I hope they don't go with whoever's first pick.
Yeah.
Who we got in the 79th overall pick? Who we got? We have still got some names in there.
Oh man, dude. Do I want to double up on offensive line here and go
Cody
Cody
Mock, let's
Mock?
go.
Let's do it. Cody Mock.
Hey,
That offensive line was so bad last year. I think there's some open positions that could be there. And you got two guys in Cody Mock and, Osiris Torrance who could come in and start immediately.
I agree. So you want to go with Cody Mock?
What's the corners? What do the corners look like?
Okay, let me see. Let's see what we got at corner. Jalen Jones. Let me see.
Yeah, let's go. Man, I don't know if I want to do. Let's do it. Let's do Cody Mock.
Cody Mock.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I want to do two offensive linemen, but I mean that offensive line was so bad last year. Why not, right?
Yeah, like
you gotta protect your young guy in CJ Stroud.
Yeah, that's the truth. And him in the third round, I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna pick him
for sure.
That's a steal. So at that third round draft, now we're just waiting for it to load. So we'll see how that goes.
They'll probably give us like an F here, but I think it's pretty successful.
Yeah, I tried. I put their grade with a grain of salt because
I mean, I'd love to see what they gave the Panthers for taking Will Levis, number 1 overall. Like, my God,
that should be an F.
That's not going to happen. There's no way that happens. The Panthers aren't that dumb, I don't think.
Like how you said, think. Let me see who we grading your draft. It should be an A. Man, I should have put a drum roll or something going on. It's taking a little bit. Like, dang. Oh, this is my first time doing the mock draft on.
Yeah.
Guess so. Let's see. Dang. Oh, it is moving. Dang, is this like? I guess because we did 3 rounds and it's trying to load up all the 7th rounds for some reason. So, would you like them to fill beside the offensive line and quarterback?
Still wide receiver, even with the signing of Isaiah McKenzie. I don't think signing Isaiah McKenzie solves all of our wide receiver issues. It just doesn't, right? Like McKenzie's a good player, but he isn't great by any means. So, you have a young guy in Alec Pierce. You have another young guy in Isaiah McKenzie. You lost Paris Campbell last year. So you look at it, it's like, yeah, for me, the smart move is to take at some point a wide receiver that could be a starting wide receiver for you.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then y'all still got Mo Alley Cox. You think they would try to get another tight end like in the later rounds?
Probably not, because we drafted Jelani Woods last year.
I forgot about that.
They might, but they're very high on Kylan Granson. They're very high on Jelani Woods. I mean, if I had the opportunity, like don't get me wrong, Jelani Wood showed some potential last year, but if you have the chance to get Laporta from Iowa, you have a chance to get maybe Kincaid from Utah if he falls to the second round, or someone like that. Like, who knows? Like, if you have a chance to get one of those guys, like, you really like. We've seen, right, what happens when you have a good tight end. I mean, look what Kansas City did to Philadelphia with a good tight end. They absolutely torched them. So if you get a good tight end, like, you can be the creative offensive coordinator, you can be dangerous.
And then there's nothing wrong with having a 2 tight end set and switching. Have a rotation and you got
So we
an
got
8.
all A's. I knew this was an A draft. If they would have given me anything less, I would have fought them.
I don't know, but it's rare when somebody gets all A's on a PFF draft. The other ones are a little nicer. I forget, was that mock draft base? They're kind of a little easier on the grades.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, that makes sense to me. Is that I mean, if that's how this falls, I wouldn't be upset. Your first 3 rounds, you get it guard and tackle and your quarterback. You're setting up your investment for the next decade. So I'm okay with that. Especially if that quarterback that we get is CJ Stroud, it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. I've already put that out of my head of that even being a possibility. But in the off chance that it happens, if that happens, I'm going to be the happiest guy in the world. I'm going to be the happiest guy in the world.
I wouldn't blame.
Best quarterback in this draft class by far.
Yeah, he's gonna go to the Panthers. That's the thing. If they say they still thinking about Will Levis. They're crazy.
If he doesn't go, I just feel like if he doesn't go 1, if they take Bryce Young, then I think he'll go 2 to Houston. I'm going to have to play him every year, twice a year for the next 10 years and have to deal with that. So either way, I think CJ Stroud's going to go in the first 2 picks of the draft.
Yeah.
But if not, if he's sitting there at 3 and the Colts don't trade up to 3, I don't care what you give up. If you don't trade up to 3 to secure your guy, they're done.
That is true. But yeah, I didn't think this draft was gonna take so it wasn't be too long. I thought it was gonna be but the only thing that was taking forever is basically it loading up.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, that's the best. But yeah, I'm ready for the draft, and I know you're seeing who's gonna be the quarterback for the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, for the Colts, definitely. I'm a draft guy at this point. Like, I love the NFL draft more so for it. Like, it's unscripted reality TV. Like, it's the best form of reality TV because it's real and there's storylines and there's drama and there's shocks, there's jaw droppers. Like I almost want Carolina to take like Will Levis or Anthony Richardson #1 because from that point on it will be pure chaos in the top 5 as to what happens with all these guys at quarterback. Like you're gonna like if Anthony Richardson or Will Levis went #1 overall, I feel sorry for whoever has to answer the phones in Arizona because that phone is going to be ringing off the hook, whether it's from Indianapolis, whether it's from Tampa Bay, whether it's from Seattle, whoever it's from, because CJ Stroud's now right there in striking distance and they didn't think they were going to get him. So, I mean, for me, there's going to be chaos. I'm not sure when the chaos is going to happen. Do they take, like, where do these guys go? I mean, we'll see. I think that's the thing. You got a bunch of guys who don't deserve to be first-round picks. They really don't. If they were running backs, if Will Levis and Anthony Richardson were running backs and they had the season that they had last year, we'd be talking about them as, 5th or 6th-round picks? But they're quarterbacks. They had a bad season, so we kind of just push it to the side and we say, well, this and that, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, if these guys played any other position, you wouldn't be feeling the same way. So we'll see. Listen, I have nothing against Mel Kiper's the guy. He's the reason these draft guys exist. He's the reason doing things like this exist, but just like the excuses that are being made right now for Will Levis are insane in my opinion, because I we just at some point we've got to be realistic in our evaluation of these prospects. And I feel like too many times the national guys and even fanboys at home get, guys who don't put in the work but like to talk like they put in the work. Like they rave over these big arms. Like it was the same thing I heard in 2019. Kyler Murray is the best quarterback in that draft class. He was the best guy coming out. It wasn't even a conversation. And you had people putting Drew Lock as the number one quarterback in that draft class. Why? Because he could throw the ball over the mountain like he was Uncle Rico, right? Like he could do those types of things. Everybody fell in love with him. They went crazy. Guess what? Drew Lock went in the second round, and now guess what? He sucks. So I mean, I tried to tell people then, they didn't listen to me. It worked out. I said I told you so. At the end of the day, I feel the same thing's going to happen to Anthony Richardson. In the same note, let me say this. I don't want your fans, I don't want my fans, I don't want anybody who listens to me to think that I'm rooting against these guys. I want nothing more than for Anthony Richardson to come out, win 4 MVPs, 5 Super Bowls, and make me look like an absolute fool. Like I wanted nothing more than Jalen Hurts to succeed. Guess what? He did. Guess what? I look like a fool. I said he would never be a franchise quarterback. Guess what? He's a franchise quarterback. All right.
I think a lot of them said that.
And he's going to get a lot of money. He's going to play for a long time, and he's going to be very successful, right? So, I mean, I said I called Josh Allen. I talk about it openly all the time. I called Josh Allen Jamarcus Locker. I said he was a mixture of Jamarcus Russell and Jake Locker. So I called him Jamarcus Locker when he came out. Thought there was no chance that guy was going to succeed. Guess what? Year 1, I was right. But we got to year 3. Now year 4 happened. Mm-hmm. This guy's a top 3 quarterback in the draft or in the NFL. So I'm rooting for these guys. That was the moral of that was I just want people to know that I am rooting for these guys, but I'm also being realistic, right? I watched the tape, and it wouldn't be fair for me to come out here and to be like, yeah, Anthony Richardson, best quarterback in this draft class. Everything I said Anthony Richardson was going to do in the combine, he did. I said he was going to run low 4s in the 40. Guess what? He did. I said he was going to blow people away with his performance and the arm and all that stuff. Guess what? He did. But I also said this. I said that the inaccuracies were going to show up, and they did. So everything he did, I said he was going to do. I say that long term to say, I hope it works, especially if he becomes a Colt. I hope it works. I hope he wins 4 or 5 Super Bowls if he becomes a Colt. But, history is just not on his side, and I just want people to know, at the end of the day, I root for these guys.
Yeah, when it comes to covering the draft, we're just critiquing what we see on film. We're not saying, "Oh, we hope this guy sucks and he's the worst draft pick we ever seen." It's just like we're just seeing what we see on film. A lot of
go ahead.
Like a lot of the generic fans will just look at highlights reels and that's fun to watch. But when you got to watch low lights of like a full game, that's when it gets real tough. You're like, ooh. And sometimes we watch a lot of film and we're just like, I'm kind of tired of watching this guy. But
I mean, it's just here's the thing, man. Like at the end of the day, like I know what it's like to be a fan, and I know what it's like to be happy that your team got this guy. And so I want. This sounds weird. This isn't the main reason I do this, but I want fans of teams to have manage expectations of what they're getting. So if you're just watching highlights or you're just seeing highlights on Twitter, you're listening to Mel Kiper talk about how great Will Levis is, and he comes up and stinks to join up, you're going to think that he's, a lot worse than he is. And it's like, well, if he would have just watched the tape instead of highlights, you would have saw it from the beginning.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the biggest things I used to do when I was younger. I just look at highlights and then, why they're not doing like that? But then when you watch back when they're versus a certain team, you're like, Oh, okay. He was showing that when he was in college, and then he transitioned to the NFL.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things is just you gotta look at both sides. Like, yeah, you can watch the highlights, but watch who they versus. Especially you want to get into this draft thing. It's a lot of work and a lot of watching film on YouTube, or if you can get all 22s and stuff,
Be great.
yeah, that's the best part. I be when I see people talk about their all 22, I'm like, man, I'm kind of jealous on that, but I'll get
Yeah.
there one day.
Yeah. Fair.
Yes, sir. So, hey, I appreciate you, bro, for getting on the show and talking about the Colts and a little bit of the draft as well. Before I let you go, you can tell them where they can catch you out and check you out at on. And I know you're still doing a lot of the top five, like you did quarterbacks, receivers, and running backs. Am I right?
I've done quarterbacks, receivers, and running backs. And I'm doing corners soon. They'll be out. They'll be out soon. And I'm doing another mock draft. I have a rule for mock drafts, like kind of like I do NCAA brackets, right? Like people do 11, 12, 13 mock drafts and they want to brag about how correct they were. Yeah, because you had 13 chances to get it right, right? People will do the same thing with their NCAA brackets. They pick 14, 15 different winners. And they're like, well, see, because you picked 15 different winners. Sure. I mean, it happens, right? I have different, people disagree with me, whatever. But my point is, I only do 3 mock drafts. I have a rule that I hold myself to. I do one pre-combine, I do one post-combine, and I'm going to do one probably a week before the draft. Kind of just get all the information you need to get, all those types of things, and gather it in. So I'll have another mock draft coming up in the next couple of weeks as well.
Okay, can't wait to see that. And part of the draft thing is nobody's gonna like your mock draft. There's gonna be a few people there, but like, oh, that's not gonna happen. Like,
Yeah,
how do you know?
yeah,
Unless you're part of the staff of the team, how do you know? But you just gotta take that.
yeah. You gotta do your best guess, your educated guess based off of history,
Yeah,
different types of things. So
I bet you have like random people that you don't even follow just want to say something about your mock draft in the past.
sometimes, a lot of times, it's a lot of people within the group chat that
Oh,
give me a hard time.
oh, I know. I wasn't trying to go there, but I just seen it.
Yeah, but yeah, not trying to. It's all in fun, but there's a
Yeah,
lot of. I don't get as much random people as I do people who I know that, you know, that I know that say something to me about, certain guys or different types of things. Like we all have different opinions, and that's fine. Like, I mean, I disagree with, there's people who think Anthony Richardson is the best quarterback in this draft class. I disagree. There's people who think Will Levis is. I disagree. I'm not going to argue with somebody who has Bryce Young because, I mean, he's right there for me. He's 2. I have CJ Stroud 1. But, I mean, there's different people who like different guys. And that's the beauty of this mock draft world. I don't have to agree, but what I will do is when I see people on the wrong side of things or spinning a wrong narrative, then I like to educate people, I feel like, because in Colts Twitter, I've been seeing a lot of people showing highlights of Anthony Richardson running for 85 yards and throwing the ball 65 yards in the air and doing all these miraculous things, but they don't take time to show the ones that he misses. And
yeah,
they don't take time to show the ones where he was wildly inaccurate and he had all kinds of time in the pocket to throw and he didn't hit the guy when he had the opportunity to do it. So it's like, we're all different. We all have different opinions, but where I start to clap back a little bit, shall I say, is when I see people spreading, the wrong narratives I see a lot of people on the wrong side of things.
yeah. So they kind of spread their own propaganda of what they see instead of like showing like both the good and the bad.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is this: like, I'm just trying to analyze these prospects for what they are. No, there's not even CJ Stroud's not a perfect prospect, right? But what you're doing by showing these big arm throws, and that's all you talk about is the potential and all this type of stuff. And you say, well, you can, especially when people say things like you can correct 54% completion percentage. It's only been done once in a 22-year span when I did research, Aaron. It's only been done one time. Once. That was Josh Allen. Outside of that, there's not a record of anybody who's completed in the 50s or lower who's been successful in the NFL. It doesn't happen, right? And so it's when you say things like, oh, 54 completion percent, it goes to the right guy, you can get it fixed. It's no, that's not how it works. Like Chris Ballard, GM, said it perfectly. He's a GM. He gets paid millions of dollars to evaluate prospects. He knows more football than anybody I know knows, right? Like this guy knows football. Said you can't dramatically get better at completion percentage. Like dramatically get better. You can improve it, but you can't improve it dramatically. And yet we have people on TV, we have people on podcasts, we have people on networks and shows and all these types of things and in group chats and on Twitter and everywhere else who are saying the opposite. And it's like the people in the NFL are telling you this can't be done. And you're trying to say, well, I know better, or like I know something they don't know. And it's like I do the opinion thing too. I've been very hard on some guys and stuff like that. But it's from a personal sense. What I like and those types of things. And I use like what the film says and history and those types of things to prove my point. I don't say things like, oh, I know better than Chris Ballard, or I know better than Jerry Jones, or I know better than this guy or that guy, because I don't. Jerry Jones has seen more football than I've ever seen. Chris Ballard's seen more football than I'll ever see. So for me to do those types of, like, that's what I'm saying at the end of the day. I didn't mean to get on a rant. I did, but the thing is, like, at the end of the day, we have to share both sides of things because, things start to get a little crazy if you don't, and then you get mismanaged expectations. GMs start getting their heads called for because they drafted this guy when you were the same people wanting him to draft this guy. Now you're wanting to fire him because he drafted this guy and it didn't work out. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, who knows? But at the end of the day, man, like, it's when I have the issue is when people think that they know better than these GMs and those types of things. And when I do mock drafts or I rank quarterbacks, like obviously I do my own studying through film and tape and all this kind of stuff, but I also listen to what people are saying and people around me or people I trust who have played in the league, who know quarterbacks, who have studied quarterbacks, who have been right, all these types of things. And when I hear people say, you just can't dramatically get better in completion percentage, and who am I to be like, well, Josh Allen? And it's like, well, there's also 7 other guys that crashed and burned miserably that say you can't dramatically get better. So there's those things.
And then you got perspective. Yes, he's coming from the SEC, but this is still a different game speed in the NFL from college.
100%. We can talk about Alabama. Like, Alabama would get the break speed off of them if they played even the worst NFL team. They would. Let's be honest. Let's call an ace a spade a spade. If they played the Houston Texans today, they'd lose. They would. They have a lot of talent, all that kind of stuff, but they would lose. It's a big boy league. You have a lot of guys who are 34 years old, 35 years old, 6'5", 350 pounds, and you have 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds who just came out of high school, just got done playing a deep. You got offensive linemen who just got done guarding defensive ends who are 265, 245, and it's like, yeah. So you're right. You're right in that sense where it's a different game.
Yeah, because when you're thinking about Alabama, some of them kids ain't even into their grown man bodies yet, and now they're going to go against grown men that been in the league for almost 10 years that know everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
or especially guys who have, even your like run of the mill guys who are just like mid tier players, learn different types of things, and they've learned from different guys and different tricks. So they may defensive end, for instance, may hit you with the spin move you've never seen in your life. Well, guess what? That's what 10 years in the NFL does for you. So, yeah, like it's a different game.
Yeah, and there's a reason why they're still in the league after 10 years. So
Yeah,
you got to put that into perspective. But yeah, you literally brought up something that you see on Twitter and everything where they say, "Oh, Alabama would be." It used to be the Cleveland Browns or the Texans or one of those. But
the Texans would beat them, and they'd probably beat them by 2 touchdowns. I mean, we can talk about how great Alabama is, and that's fine. Alabama's a great, but listen, here's something I'm gonna use this to say this. Deion Sanders once said when he was coaching at Jackson State, "How come you're not playing Alabama?" And he said, "Because we're not ready." He said, "Sure, we got the skill talent, we got the corner, we got all the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, all that stuff." But he said, "We're not ready up front in the offensive line, defensive line." He said, "Give me a few years, we'll do that." That translation from FCS to FBS is the same thing from FBS to the NFL. Like, let's be real. They don't have the power that it's going to take to do that. But yeah, I mean, those are silly conversations. Those are, what if scenarios. Those are not scenarios that would ever really happen.
Yeah. And I wouldn't hope for an 18-year-old to have to go against a 30-year-old NFL player that got a whole bunch of experience. That wouldn't be.
Yeah, for sure.
Wouldn't be pretty to see.
I agree.
Yes, sir. But hey, this has been Tacos and Touchdown. I appreciate you, Stu, for being on the show. Definitely want to get you back on after the draft and everything to get your perspective of how you thought about the draft and everything.
Yeah, I mean this in a jokingly manner, so don't take this seriously. But if I'm not in jail, I mean, if they draft Anthony, then I might riot. So who knows? But depending on who the Colts draft, I might riot. I'm kidding. I wouldn't riot, but yeah, I appreciate you. I'll be back on for sure. I'll be back on if you want. We can preview. I'll be back on closer to the year if you want. Preview the season, all that kind of stuff, whatever. But for sure, I love talking football. I'll talk football all day.
Definitely can do that. But I think a lot of us fans say we'll ride if a certain player is drafted anyways. But we ain't going to do it because you think they're going to bail us out. So that's the important part.
Yeah. I mean, I would have rioted if Jeff Saturday would have been hired as the full-time head coach. I'd have been down on West 56th Street with a sign protesting on the corner there at Lucas Oil. But,
Hey, at least it didn't happen. But
it didn't happen, so I didn't have to worry about it. So I'm safe, right?
I think that's your get out of jail card right there. They would have did that. I think you would have got one, so I think you would have been fine. They just slap you on the wrist a little bit, so you can go home now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so man, you had me really thinking what they really did, but
dude, had they done that, there would have been premium content coming from Morning Brew with Stu. That's for sure. It would have been heated. That's for sure.
But would have been the most heated episode you ever created.
No. There was one after a Baltimore Ravens game in 2019 that I was pretty heated about.
So I'm trying to even think about that game.
So we played Baltimore in 2019. It was a Phillip Rivers year, and maybe it was 2020. I don't know. The years at this point, ever since COVID, kind of run together. It's hard to really kind of gather, but it may have been the COVID year. Anyways, point remaining. We're playing Baltimore, and there's about 4 minutes left. There's about 2 minutes left to go in the game. We're down. We're marching, and we go screen, run, screen, run, screen, run, turnover on downs, and wasted timeouts in the process because we ran the football. And I absolutely cooked Frank Reich on my show the next day because it was ridiculous. Like, horrible game management, horrible play calling, bad decisions. And everyone was telling me, well, maybe they couldn't push the ball down the field because of Phillip Rivers' arm, right? That was on a Sunday. 4 days later on Thursday, they played Tennessee, and we threw the ball all over the field. Threw for, I think Philip Rivers threw for like 375 yards or 400 yards or something. He had 4 touchdowns. We beat the brakes off the Titans, and it was like, where was this team that previous Sunday night when we played Baltimore? We would have won the game, but we got conservative. And I've had a lot of Frank Reich decisions that I've yelled about.
I can see why that was heated then. And then people,
Frank was a great coach, but there was just times where he was conservative. I don't, or he was too aggressive at times, and it's like, dude, just take the points. Take the points. Live to fight another day. Like instead, you go for it. You go 4 and out. You don't necessarily win the game. So
that just likes a lot of coaches. Sometimes they'll go super aggressive, or they'll go in that conservative role, and you kind of like, can you just meet me in the middle?
Yeah,
we'll just win the game.
Which I'm an aggressive-minded guy. If I was a head coach, I'd be aggressive too. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's just times where Frank I felt like he thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and he wasn't, and it came back to bite him in the rear end.
I think that's a lot of head coaches because they have a lot of experience, and if especially they play in the NFL, they're gonna have that mindset. I'm the smartest. For sure. So I think it's sometimes they gotta leave their ego at the door a little bit, but kind of keep it there. So you gotta have a little bit of arrogance when you're a head coach of a football team or any sport.
I agree.
It just goes basically down in that middle part, but we could basically go on here and talk about football.
I can talk football all day. So if you don't shut me up, well, this will be a 3-hour, 4-hour podcast. So.
I don't want to get you late for work, though. But
yeah.
Yes, sir. But this has been Tacos and Touchdowns. This is my guy, Stu. Hope y'all have a good one. Peace.